Our keynote is Lauren Huffmaster. Lauren is a 2018 Leslie Sweet honoree. She is the founder of the nonprofit Adventure Therapy and uses adventure to help those impacted by cancer escape the emotional trauma that occurs after treatment. After treatment, you get that? Hundreds of individuals dealing with cancer diagnosis have been helped through the minefield of emotions. You get that? Minefield of emotions. Into a place of healing and restoration by Lauren's nonprofit. Lauren is a speaker, a writer, so far, a cancer survivor, and she wrote the introduction to Leslie Sweet's first terminal book, nonfiction words that read like fiction. Please, Lauren, come to the stage and honor this crowd with your presence.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I want to thank Sandra for inviting me and entrusting me for this time to stand before you and to stand up here and sort of set the stage for what we're about, what we want to accomplish today. And I really want to each and every one of you, because you came here despite a national pandemic, a global pandemic, despite ensuing floods that were here just a few weeks ago. And you set all that aside so that you can focus on a purpose that could not wait. We don't have time to wait until the world is safe before we start this conversation, before our lives are at risk, they're at stake. If we waited another year, a lot of us may not be here to tell our stories. And so we really appreciate that you came today. Maybe it's the first time you traveled for business in a year and a half, but we're glad you made this your debut, your coming out party. What a venue we have. So we're very thankful that you're here today. Today, we want to focus on a very purposeful conversation. We are a people of urgency, and we want to have a conversation about this urgency, about what it means to live with metastatic cancer. And that is why we're here. That is why we have gathered. The title of my vision today is I Am a Partner in Breakthrough. I wrote this title a few years ago at a time I honestly didn't know if I should show it to anybody. It felt so significant to me, but it also felt very bold. I knew it was important, but it was not something I was really ready to say out loud. Sandra asked me for a collection of writings, and I had a number of essays, but this is the one that I got stuck on. I sat there and I looked at it and looked at it. I knew these words were transforming me and the way I saw cancer, and I just wasn't sure if I was ready to put that into the hands of someone else. I thought about it for quite some time, and then ultimately, I made the decision to give it to Sandra because I didn't know if anyone else would ever ask me about my thoughts, about what I thought. So I gave it to her and took that risk, and I'm very glad that I did. Because Sandra took that essay and made it an opening for her first book for the metastatic community. In this essay, I wrote that I, the patient, am a partner in the breakthroughs of cancer. The words felt revolutionary to me, like I was breaking an unspoken rule, that my role was not passive as a patient, but instead I was someone driving a different future and a different vision of the cancer experience. When I wrote the words, I wanted to believe them. I earnestly wanted to know that my story and my life was a part of something bigger and had a purpose. I wanted to know that my personal tragedy could become a triumph. But that required such a huge shift in mentality. It felt like simply too much to hope for, too bold to say out loud or have Sandra up. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." I was looking for my why. I needed to know whether or not I could bear living with metastatic breast cancer. To believe in a future filled with hope and purpose is difficult for any human, but for a woman impacted by metastatic breast cancer, it can feel impossible. To live with this diagnosis means I've already laid down at least one version of my life, at least one understanding of what my life would look like and what I might accomplish. The hopes of my life have already turned to ash by the trail of fire cancer has brought upon me. So to simultaneously mourn my former hopes and irrationally seek out new purposes is something that I can barely handle. It's almost too much to ask of a person. The only possible way to grasp a new hope is to forgive the past and choose to live through a lens of optimistic purpose with a significant amount of urgency. It was with the balance of these two emotions, optimism and urgency, that I wrote that essay. I am glad I gave it to Sandra with my hopes because it has drawn us together into this moment. Today, each of us can sit here together and consider our why. And through our conversations, we can lay these in front of each other. Why have we gathered today in the middle of a pandemic? Why is this conversation important to you? Why do we keep leaning into something that has been declared impossible? Personally, my irrational optimism here, I don't see any good reason for me to believe anything else. I believe I can bring change to cancer. I don't see any good reason to believe that you can't do the same. The reason each of us are here today, besides just reason, vocation, or TED, is because we want to believe we can bring change to the cancer community. This realization holds phenomenal potential. Each of us with different gifts, perspectives, and stories sitting on the edge of our chairs, ready to engage in conversation, ready to learn from one another, ready to be intentional with how we can better use our voice, our positions, and our lives to bring change to the cancer community. So let's get busy talking. Today is about intentional conversations, conversations that make a difference. Conversations that demonstrate how we are alike, how we're aligned. Conversations that allow us to build upon each participant's experiences and allow these experiences to become the building tools for something better for the next generation of survivors. And just like when I wrote that essay, today I feel the potential. Each of us positioning our minds to truly believe, I am a partner in breakthroughs. You are breakthrough itself. Because of our lives, the cancer experience will never be the same. Now this is revolutionary. And before I go any farther, I want us to take action. Conversation without action is just empty words. And so today we're going to take action and declare this statement so it can sink in a little bit. So at your table, look at the people around you. I want you to look at the people around you and say, and look at them in the face, and declare over your life and theirs. I'm a partner in breakthrough. You are breakthrough itself. And because of our lives, the cancer experience will never be the same. If this is the first time you've considered this potential in your life, if you don't yet know if you really believe those words, I acknowledge that probably feel awkward. But that's okay. To live with metastatic disease is to never quite be comfortable. So, well, a lot of us are used to that feeling by now. But I really want you to get this. As we talk together, I want you to consider that it is time for the uncertainty inside of us to come from believing too much from your life, rather than concerned that it might hold too little. Now that I've framed these important conversations, let's think about what we have to offer each other. Today we've come together to tell stories. Stories are deeply human. They express life in a personal and unique way. Something so unique that will be told by every speaker here today. We invite you to listen intently. For through our stories, we're giving you the most painful moments and our greatest strengths. Both of these qualities are tied together, and they won't be easy to listen to. I'm honest. I listened to stories yesterday, they're not easy to hear. But don't shut out, right? Don't close it down. We have to hear these stories. They're also very difficult to tell. So as we tell our stories, we may not get through them all. Hopefully you hear our heart if our words aren't clear. I'm going to start by telling my story. In 2015, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. My children were 2, 4, and 6. This is very important to me. As is typical, I spent 2 years going through every standard of care treatment. I did chemo, radiation, double mastectomy, reconstruction, and hysterectomy. And during this season, I was told over and over that my cancer experience would be a pause in my life. 1 year. Don't worry, over in a year, you get back to doing all the things a young woman of your age should be doing. These words are told a lot. Cancer will be 1 year of your life, don't worry. But it's definitely a carrot on a stick that gets you from treatment to treatment, and not a statement that is true. No matter what stage of cancer you have, it is never a pause. It is always going to change who you are. Nonetheless, at the end of my stage 3 care plan, I wrapped everything up nicely with a PET scan. It was December 21st, 2017, the very last day of school before Christmas break began. I had my scan in the morning and I rushed home to prepare my home for 15 second graders who were coming over for a Christmas party. It was going to be Polar Express and hot chocolate and PJs and all this stuff. My house glowed in Christmas lights. There were twinkling lights everywhere. Music was hanging in the air. My children were dancing around with that childhood bliss that happens on the last day of school, and the only thing left for you is that anticipation of what's around the corner. Christmas and presents, yes. My kitchen counters were covered in powdered sugar, and I was just pulling a batch of sugar cookies out of the oven when my phone rang. I answered it. On the phone was my oncologist. She was quiet. She didn't say anything. Finally, she said, I should not be calling you. They teach us in med school not to do this. I should not be calling you. I am so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. You are so young. She didn't say anything else. She didn't need to. I knew that from that moment on, my life was changing. It would never be the same. I set down the pan of cookies on the counter and ran to my bedroom. The room was black as night. The darkness in the room hid me, but it also began to envelop me. I cried, I wailed, I wept. There was no reason to hold anything back. because my life had just ended. It had been taken from me. I don't know how long I sat in the darkness. I remember my neighbor opening the door, saying she's taking my kids to her house. I remember the presence of my husband, but most of all, I remember the darkness. Most women living with metastatic breast cancer and their co-survivors and husbands have a story like this one. It's not something we want to tell. It's not easy to get on this stage. We don't write about it in our Christmas cards or put it on social media. To direct our thoughts to that moment is to relive the trauma. To relive that trauma is just too much. It's too much to ask a person. It is the first moment of your trauma. It is the moment that changed everything. And for some of us, it's the moment that took everything away. Please remember this as you listen today. Dostoevsky says, "There's one thing that I dread, not to be worthy of my sufferings." This is the moment where we begin to learn whether or not we have the ability to carry the sufferings of life. The first 3 months after my diagnosis, the entire world was darkness. Everywhere I looked, I saw a future lost. Around every corner, the next glow. To receive a terminal diagnosis is to mourn for your own life. We mourn through uncertainty, for the experiences that will be lost, for the life we will not live, the days we will not see. We mourn for the burden of treatment and the finite list of options that might free us from the disease. We mourn more than anything else for our children. My mourning expressed itself through desperate grasps of making the process easier for my family. Every day went through checklists in my mind of ways that I could establish their life in such a way that the loss of me would hurt less. I began to write my own funeral instructions, separate my belongings into piles, write letters, and I became consumed by the process. One morning, I woke up and sat on the edge of my bed. I could see the season of mourning. I could see the darkness that I had embraced, and I had this overwhelming understanding that if I didn't turn away from that, I might never escape. As a woman, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, a teacher, an advocate, I'm a researcher, a leader, a chef, a free Uber driver for my kids. I have so many things. And yet, I was choosing to live in one identity. I was choosing to set aside all the other things because now I was patient. I was living for an uncertain future rather than a guaranteed present. I looked at my life and the 3 months that had passed and asked myself, is this who I really want to be? Is this producing memories and impact that I want to define me? I knew the only memories my children would have of me were memories of me living with this disease. I had to decide what that would look like from their eyes. So in that moment, I chose to rise from my bed and leave the darkness behind me. In my mind, I had to willfully turn away from that downward pool. I had to shift my thoughts, every one of them, and bring them into alignment with the person I wanted to be. In that moment, instead of casting my gaze on a database definition of my life, I chose to believe in irrational optimism. My high thoughts had to count away those deep, darkness thoughts. I disciplined my mind to only consider the possibility of what can be. I began to of change, of strength, of all the books I might write, or programs I can design, and all the potential in me that had not yet been fully realized. I envisioned myself on a stage like this one, and how my weakness, my terminal diagnosis, would give me a voice. I dreamt of helping others, and of how I had shined a spotlight of hope into the middle of despair. And it was in that season that I wrote I Am Breakthrough. I wrote it as a declaration to my future self. I am breakthrough. I am a partner in the changes that will come to the cancer experience. I can use my body and my story to pursue a cure. I can use my story and my life to minimize the emotional side effects of cancer. I can establish new and innovative solutions. I can reform the cancer experience, and I can shift mindsets around cancer. I am breakthrough, and you are too. We are connected in this breakthrough moment. During the years I've lived with cancer, breakthrough medications have been approved. In the last decade, the possibility of living with cancer has begun to spark hope. If not perhaps for us, then for our children. And we are a part of that. The breakthroughs that are uncovered, the breakthroughs that will ensure our children will never experience cancer as we have, that is my legacy. That is our legacy. I am the data. We are the ones who seek out clinical trials. We are the ones who tell our story. We use social media to grow grassroots awareness of what metastatic breast cancer looks like. We are the advocates, the friends, the women paving the ways for others to have a better life. When I first read those words, I was unsure, but today I stand before you and declare, you are breakthrough, and I believe that with all that I am. We have the opportunity to change this world and the world of cancer. We need each other, though. Whether you're a patient or advocate or researcher, a marketer or scientist, we need you. You are breakthrough. We need the pharmaceutical companies. You're bringing medical breakthrough. We are partners in this conversation, and the experience of cancer will never be the same because of our contributions. When I wrote the words, I only wanted to believe in them, but after living with the words in the back of my mind for 2 years, I have transitioned not only from believing them, but choosing to live by them every day. I am a partner in breakthrough. But in order for my spark to become sustainable, I need partners. So I seek out partners. I choose to partner with pharmaceuticals, nonprofits, cancer survivors, and patients. I listen and encourage. I speak and communicate not only on my own cancer experience, but about the cancer experience as a whole, from all the stories I've ever heard. I work to create a trail for those who will be diagnosed behind me. A trail that is a little smoother, a little longer, and a little brighter. I think we all do these things in our own way. I work with the full knowledge of my contributions are for today, but they're even more so for a future, a tomorrow that I may not see. Uncertainty is a defining characteristic of metastatic breast cancer. And though it is uncomfortable, it's not necessarily bad. Uncertainty gives me focused purpose, powered by an ever-present urgency. There is so much that needs to happen for the mental health community. There's so much for us to talk about today. And today is our beginning, our milestone moment that will leave us inspired, valued, and with a sense of purpose and urgency. So I think we're about ready to talk, right? Bob Goff says your settings shape your conversation. It's for that reason Bob takes all his most difficult clients and has all of his meetings on Tom Sawyer Island in Disneyland, a place where anything is possible. Well, today we have a setting of our own that really rivals Disneyland, don't we? We have a setting where even our biggest dreams can grow. A setting that pushes us to believe the value of our stories and how important these partnerships are. So what kind of future do you want to create? What dreams do you want to imagine for women impacted by cancer? Since I have a stage, I'm going to start with my vision. The vision I see when I look to the future and see women impacted by cancer. This is what I see. This is what I'm walking toward. These are not empty words. Because words without action are dead. And for that reason, every day of my life, I work to transition this vision from words into action, into a reality, into a different future. I'm a woman of urgency, and I can't wait till someone smarter, or with more money, or with more time takes this job. I have to do the work now. And most days, my vision feels impossible, feels huge. But today gives me so much hope, because in this room there are partners. And I know that with partners, we can take my vision and make it reality. So my impact comes from believing this. This is my declaration that I tell myself. The women currently diagnosed with cancer are the first generation of true cancer survivors. We use this word survivors so much it's lost its meaning. But when I say true survivors, I mean women who their days will not be changed. The length of their days will not be changed by cancer. True survivors. I believe we're on the brink of medical breakthrough, and I believe I will live a long life despite cancer diagnosis. Because of this, I believe we should get busy reshaping the experience of cancer. Because I believe we must ensure the experience of cancer has social systems in place to help patients live full lives with cancer. In order for this to happen, we must begin to build awareness, not around how many people are dying, but how many people are living. We must shift the conversation away from fear. I see a future when a newly diagnosed woman will not waste 3 months of her life living in darkness. A cancer experience where resources are clear and available, where patients and survivors are connected. A cancer experience without isolation. I envision a cancer experience where the medical community can see me as a woman as much as a patient. And as a woman, they can see my children and my husband. These co-survivors are walking through years of cancer with me, yet no one sees them or cares for them. There is no acknowledgement and no resources for them. I dream of a cancer experience where those I love are cared for, that the emotional burden of my diagnosis is minimized in their life because there are spaces and places for them to receive support. I envision a cancer experience where the emotional side effects of cancer are treated with equal attention to the physical side effects. That I have places and spaces to learn that there are stages of emotional response to cancer diagnosis, that my isolation, fear, and loss of identity are typical responses to a diagnosis. That there are tools to help me with these and with trauma. There are spaces and places that teach me how to use these tools to teach my children and my family how to move forward emotionally after the trauma of my death. I envision a cancer experience where the community is real and alive, where there are those who are years ahead of me in the cancer journey and a year behind me, and we lift each other up, and we are connecting, and and we're sharing knowledge and cheering each other on. And once we have all of this in place, I envision a culture where the disease is less important than the people it impacts. Where no longer are we cancer patients or cancer survivors, phrases that place the disease before the person. We become those who are impacted. Our lives have been impacted or strongly affected. But that is where cancer's power ends. Cancer does not have the power to overshadow all that we are, were, or ever will be. It does not have the power to be the singular characteristic of my life. Impacted is also the defining characteristic of a cancer community because it can mean firmly packed together. We are this too. We are people who are firmly together by choice, by a purpose, and as a strength. And today, I hope our conversation begins with my vision, and we take it apart and make it bigger. Behind me are pictures of the women who have passed away, who've been served by Leslie's Week. And I hope that my voice is amplified by their life and by the life of the women in the room today. Our conversation today needs to happen. It's not just a simple exchange of opinions, because that doesn't bring change. It's only with a shared vision and a commitment to take action that we can truly become partners. It's only when everyone in the room recognizes his or her place in the conversation that we will embrace our roles as stakeholders. There is so much at stake here. Everything is at stake here. My life is at stake here. The lives of the women in the room are at stake here. The co-survivors are at stake. Our children's futures are at stake. And above else, if for no other reason, we must work to ensure that the experience of cancer is not the same today as it will be for my children. The next generation cannot carry this burden. We have to change that. But these cycles will not be undone without leaders who will take action. Today's conversation must be more than empty words. So, today let's have conversations, and let's make a difference in the experience of